Okay, welcome to episode 6 of 1 Megaminx OLL. Today we're going to cover sets 13, 18 and 29, which are the best remaining symmetrical sets. These algs are a little bit slower, maybe like 0.1 of a second slower on average than the ones from previous weeks. However, because they're symmetrical, I think they have pretty easy recognition, so these are still, pretty nice sets, and there are some really nice cases in here. So this is 10 cases altogether, and as always, all of the algs that I mention will be listed down in the description, as well as links to an OLL trainer and my Megaminx algs document, which contains all of the OLL and PLR algs that I use and recommend. So that out of the way, let's get into it. So first up we have set 13. These are these sort of W-shaped cases, or at least a W is kind of what I see, but it's a pretty distinctive top pattern, so whatever you see is fine. As you can see, there's only 2 of these, 13 plus and 13 minus. So recognition is pretty easy, they're just mirror images, right? So with 13 plus, we have a bar on the left-hand side here, and no bar on the right. And with 13 minus, we have a bar on the right and no bar on the left. So very straightforward recognition. The algorithms should be pretty easy to learn as well, because they're just modifications of algs that we covered last week, which are the 15A cases. So this first one here, 13 plus, we do it from this angle, with a bar on the front left, and we just do 15A plus, but doubling up on the U moves. So instead of U, we do U2, instead of U prime, we do U2 prime. So that's going to look like this. R prime F R, U2, R prime F prime R, F, U2 prime, F prime, right? Just like that. So a very nice case. And the second one, 13 minus, is just a mirror and then rotation of the previous algorithm, which means that we end up with 15A minus this time, but again, doubling up on the U moves. So we do it from this angle with the bar on the right, and it's going to look like this. F, R prime, F prime, which I push with my right index, and then U2 prime, F R, F prime, R prime, U2, R. Just like that. So pretty nice case. Next up we have set 18, which are the cases that have this sort of long block here, right? There's 6 of these altogether, just the first 4 of which are shown here. So these 4 are 18C, 18D, 18A, and 18B. And after this, we're going to show 18E plus and minus. Recognition for these cases is pretty straightforward. So 18A has these 2 long bars. 18B has no bars whatsoever. 18C and 18D have these 2 sticker bars, right? But 18C has headlights, so the bars are on the left. And 18D has no headlights, so the bars are on the right. So very straightforward. As for the algorithms, this first one here, 18C, is a 3x3 transfer. So we're going to hold the headlights on the right, and then do F, double inverse sexy, F prime. So this is an alg you probably already know. It just looks like this. F, U, R, U prime, R prime, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime, right? So very nice case. For 18D, we're going to hold it so the bars, well, so the block is like, straight up and down. And this is going to be a new algorithm, but it looks like this. R prime, U2 prime, R, U, R prime, hedge, U, R. So, pretty nice case, and should be, I don't know, relatively easy to learn. There you go. For 18A here, this is a 3x3 transfer, but not everyone uses this alg on 3x3, so it's just the Colin Burns OLL, and it's going to look like this. So if you don't already know it, it's R prime F U, R U prime, R2 prime, F prime R2 U, R prime U prime R, right? Just like that. And just, make sure not to regroup, because it's faster if you don't. But yeah, just like that. And finally for 18B, there's 2 ways of doing this, I guess. The fastest way that I've found is from this angle. We're going to do F, R prime, F prime L, F, R2, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, L prime, right? Just like that. There you go. However, this alg is admittedly a little bit risky, so there's another way of doing it, which is just RUF, and it is from this angle here, right? So the bar is straight up and down, and it looks like this. R prime, F prime, U prime, F, U, and then we cancel into this OCLL, right? Which you can do from this angle, like R, U2, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime, right? So altogether that would look like this. R prime, F prime, U prime, F, U, R2, U2, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. just like that. So I find that to be a little bit slower, but you might find it faster or you might find it more reliable. So just try out both of them and see which one works for you. And then we have 18E plus and minus. So these are the cases that have a 3-sticker bar on one side and no bar on the other, right? Like that. And they're of course mirror images. So is that 3-sticker bar on the right or is that 3-sticker bar on the left? So very straightforward recognition. These cases are the equivalent of this line OLL on Thread3. And there's two algs that people tend to use for this line OLL. The first one is like this, right? And the second one is like this. So these algs both solve 18E minus, so you can use either one of them, right? The first one, if you don't know, it would look like this. We're going to hold the bar on the right and do R, U, R prime, U, R, U prime, B, R prime, U prime, B, R prime, R prime, right? Just like that. So it's a pretty nice alg, but it uses these like flick BR moves, which not everyone's going to be a fan of. So if you're not, then try out this one as well, which is going to look like this. We hold the bar on the left this time and do R prime, F prime, U prime, F, U prime, then R, U, R prime, U, R, which looks like that. So I personally find this to be a little bit slower, but they're different angles, so you know, you can use both of them, which is what I do, or just try them both out and see which one works better for you. Anyway, for 18E plus here, the algorithm that I recommend is just a modification of that the second algorithm that I showed there, the RUF one. So instead of starting with R prime, F prime, U prime, F, we're going to start with R prime, F prime, U to prime, F, right? So it's going to look like this. We hold the bar on the back left, and then do this. R prime, F prime, U to prime, F, and then finish off the same way. R, U, R prime, U, R, right? Just like that. So it's almost the same thing, it's just a tiny modification. But yeah, that's 18. And finally we have set 29. So these are the cases that have this top pattern here, which isn't really equivalent to anything on Thread3, but it's a pretty distinctive shape, so I think it should be pretty easy to recognize. And just like with set 13, there's only two of these cases, right? 29 plus and 29 minus, which are of course mirrors. So with 29 plus, this bar is on the left-hand side, and with 29 minus, the bar is on the right-hand side. So pretty easy recognition. The algs should be relatively easy to learn as well. So 29 plus here is very similar to 18C that we learned before, which was F double inverse sexy F prime. But with this alg here, we're just going to double up on the first and last U moves, right? So that's going to look like this. We hold the bar in the front and then do this. F, U2, R, U prime, R prime, U, R, U2 prime, R prime, F prime, right? Just like that. So very nice alg. And then the second one here, 29 minus, is just the back mirror of that algorithm. So we're going to hold this bar in the back right, and then do this. BR prime, U2 prime, R prime, U, R, U prime, R prime, U2, R, and then BR with your right ring, right? Just like that. So that last finger trick there, the double flick into BR, will probably take some getting used to. Once you're used to it, it's pretty nice. So that's it for today.